Welcome everyone to week 3 classroom session for CLC 1 Supply Chain for Health online course. This course is jointly organized by B Skilled and NIPE, the Association of Industrial Pharmacists of Nigeria. Today we have with us Dr. Ukamaka Okafor, who was also there in week 1 session. So today she will also be guiding us through this session and also support us in the discussion as well with me. Before we begin for today's session, which is on strategic procurement in health supply chains, which is of course lining with module 5, which was the module in focus for this week. We are going to discuss week 2 assignment, which has been requested by a few participants. Week 2, where we were focusing on product selection and forecasting and supply planning. The assignment was based on the classroom session which we organized in the last week on forecasting methodologies. There you were given an Excel sheet with some data. And then on the platform, there was a quiz with 5 questions. So you had to analyze the Excel data provided to you, and then choose the correct answers in the quiz. So we will quickly discuss that, but I will also take you to the Excel. But the key points which we were trying to address through that assignment was, of course, to understand how when we conduct forecasting, we should always use unit of measure. We discussed that in the previous classroom session, that we should be able to convert tablets to packs, and more importantly, secondary packs, which is mostly a unit of measure for most manufacturers. So generally, manufacturers will charge you as per secondary pack when you are doing your procurement. So it is imperative that you use the same unit for your forecasting as well. The weekly assignment also had question about average monthly consumption. And then, of course, it also asked you to conduct trend analysis. So let's quickly go over the sheet and discuss that assignment. In case you have any specific question about that assignment, do let me know. Then I can focus exactly on that question as well. So, okay, you should be able to see the Excel now. So this was the data which was provided. First of all, about the product, that was azithromycin tablet, 500 milligrams. The pack size, which was the unit of measure, it was 3 into 10 in a secondary pack, which means a secondary pack has 30 tablets. Okay, so each primary pack has 3 tablets, and the secondary pack has 10 primary packs. So means it has 30 tablets. The indication, it's written on the screen, rhinosinusitis, nose bleeding, and a few else. Adults need 1 tablet a day for 3 days. That's the regimen. It's part of the Essential Medicines program in District X. It is funded by the Ministry of Health through the Drug Revolving Fund. There are no new target to consider. So it needs to follow the regular consumption in the Essential Medicines program. The forecast period is 12 months. There is a growth rate of 2%. Okay. So that's the data which has been provided to us. So if we see here, the other data which was provided to us was a consumption data of 24 months. So this was also provided to us. Let me just put this in blue, that we know that this was the data provided to us. So I've just listed here what was given to us. We were given the pack size. There was no new target. We know that the annual growth rate is 2%. And then we were given consumption data month-wise for 24 months. Okay. Now, if we go to the quiz, which was there, the first question was, how many packs were dispensed in 24 months? So these are the number of tablets which were dispensed, or we can say consumed in the 24 months. So if we convert tablets into packs, which is divide the number of tablets by 30. 30 is the number of tablets in the secondary pack, okay, which is the unit of measure. So if we divide by 30, we get the number of pack dispensed every month. So now we have the data for every month. So if we need to know how many packs were dispensed in 24 months, we simply need to add this data, do a sum of this data. So sum of F12, so F12, which is this cell, F12 to F35. Okay. So if we do the sum of F12 to F35, we get the total number of packs dispensed in the 24 months. Okay, so that's a very simple calculation. I hope everyone was able to do that, and it was quite clear. Okay. The second question was, what is the average monthly consumption? So now we know the number of packs being dispensed each month. To get average monthly consumption, we need to just divide the sum, which we did in the first question, by 24 months. So, or if we can take an average of this entire, entire column where the data is. So whichever way. So either we divide this number 2597 by 24, we get the same number 108, or we can take an average of this entire data which has been given to us. It still gives us 108. It's the same formula, same equation. Okay, so to get the average monthly consumption, we divide the sum by 24, which is the period, and we get the average monthly consumption. The third question was to calculate a forecast using average monthly consumption, AMC. So we have the AMC 108. So step one is to find the AMC and then multiply it with 12. Okay. So the AMC is 108, and if we multiply it with 12, we get 1296. But we also know that there is an annual growth rate of 2%. So let's take an assumption that there will be 2% increase in the demand of product as well. Okay. So we add 1296 with 2%. Okay. So we get something wrong. So 2% of 1296. That is 26. Now, if we take a sum of 1296 plus 26, but for some reason it's showing something wrong. Okay. Ideally, it should be 1324. So just like it's been done here. So we add multiply average monthly consumption by 12, and then add 2% in. Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, that's the same equation. Maybe it's a rounding off error. Let's check. But anyways, I think it's a rounding off error. So when we round up everything, it should come to 1324. Okay. So when we take the assumption of 2%, so if we use the same formula again, that we multiply AMC, which is 108 by 12, and then we need to add 2% into it. 2% of the forecast into it. So Q14 into 12 into 2%. Okay. Yeah. So for some reason now it's giving us the correct answer. So 1324. So the simple way of understanding is that we do the we multiply the AMC with 12. That gives us the basic forecast, and then we add 2% growth into the forecast by figuring out what is the 2% of that forecast, and then adding it back into the forecast which we have found out. So that gives us 1324, which is the correct answer. By this time, if you have any questions, please you can put them in the chat. The fourth question was to prepare the forecast using the trend analysis. So if you remember the formula of trend, we need to find three things. We need to know the known y's. So generally, y-axis is the amount of packs dispensed. Known x is the period. So from first month to 24 month, and then 25th month to 36th month, which is the forecast period, which is the new x. So known x is the first 24 months, and the new x is the 12 months, the next 12 months. So to do that, I have plotted the data here in that order. So this is the period here in light orange from month 1 to month 24. This is the packs dispensed in light green, which is the same coming from here. So I've just copied this data and I have just pasted here. Okay. Now this is the trend line. So just like we had discussed last time, we need to calculate the trend line. So as you see on this graph as well, so I have plotted the green, which is this packs dispensed, which goes up and down, and then the purple is the trend line. Okay. So to get the trend line, we know the formula is, first of all, we select the entire field where we want to plot the trend. Then we use trend, which is the name of the function in Excel, known y, which is this packs dispensed, and known x's 1 to 24. And then we need to do Control, Shift, and Enter. So the entire area, it gets plotted with the trend line. Now, if we need to know the extrapolation of that trend line to cover the period for which we need the forecast for, so we need to select that area again and then apply the formula again. Now this time with the new axis where we want the data to be plotted. So is equal to trend, known y's, which is the number of pack dispensed for each month, known x's 1 to 24, and now we need to select known y's, which is new x's, which is the new period, month 25th to 36th. Then again Control, Shift, Enter. So now this data gets plotted automatically. So how do we calculate the forecast for 12 months? We simply add this entire data from month 25 to 36. So when I do that, if I take the sum here, it comes to 1120, which is your answer. And the final question was, how does the trend line look like? Is it an upward trend? Is it a stagnant trend? Downward trend? Or there was another option probably. So if you see here, the trend line is going down. Slowly it's going down. So it's a downward trend, which means that the demand of this product is decreasing month by month. Okay. I mean, if we remove the trend line here, it's very difficult to understand because it keeps going up, then down, keeps going up and down. But when we plot this trend line, that's when we realize that slowly, actually the demand of this product is going down month by month. Okay, and that these kind of analysis help in understanding the demand pattern of products so that eventually you make the right decisions on how much of a product is needed for your next period. So if you'll see here, for the next period, the amount of product needed is 1120. Now, if you compare this with the previous 12 months, So if I just take a sum of this period, Jan 18 to December 18, that is 1239. That is more than what is needed in the next period based on this trend line analysis. Okay. So this was the week 2 assignment, which I've just given you an idea how to do that in case it was not very clear to you in the previous session. In case you have any questions for this, please, you can also unmute and ask, or you can also write in the chat. I will just wait for a few seconds before I go back to the session for this week. If you have any questions, please.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so please, can you go over again how you got the trend figures on that column?
Sorry, which? Sorry, I'm just sharing the sheet again.
The trend.
So which figure? So which figure?
The purple column. The purple column.
This
How did
purple
you
column.
come by? Yes, that's the
Okay.
trend.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like I said,
How did you?
I'm using the trend function. So there's a trend function on Excel. So let me quickly show you. So if I write trend here on Excel, so you see this comes. So this is the trend function on Excel. This is a function.
Okay.
It's a formula. Okay. So this formula, for this to work, we need 3 types of data. We need known y, known x, and then new x. What does this mean? So let me tell you what does this mean. So I will take help of this graph. So this was the number of pack dispensed on a monthly basis from month 1 to month 24. Is that okay? You understand this?
Yes. Yes.
So if I plot this data on a graph, it looks like this. The green line that you see going up and down. Okay. So
Yeah.
now our objective is to calculate a trend of this up and down data. To do that, we need this function. So in this case, if you see on the graph, x-axis, this is the x-axis, where the time is plotted. Y-axis is the amount of pack dispensed. So known y means the number of packs dispensed. So known y is the packs dispensed per month from period 1 to period 24. Known x is the time. So known x is period 1 to period 24. Okay. So to calculate the trend line, we select the entire area, which is just the way I've selected now. And then let me delete this so that it becomes easier for you to understand. We selected the entire thing. Then we put the trend function. Okay, so you see the trend function coming. So we start the function, it first asks for known y's. If you see on screen, it is asking for known y's. So known y's is this. This is the numbers of pack dispensed per month. Now it is asking for known x's. Known x's is the period 1 to 24. Now with trend, to close this function, we just can't put the bracket and click enter. It won't happen. It will just only plot one cell. But we want this function to plot the entire group of cell that we have selected. So we press Control, Shift, and Enter on our keyboard all at once. So when I press it, you see the trend is populated. And now the graph is also populated once again because it is linked. Okay. So now you see the trend is populated. This is the trend line for the existing data. Now our objective is to find the trend line. So to extrapolate this trend line, so we are just simply extrapolating this trend line. If you see here with the bracket, this is the forecast. To extrapolate it, we need to add one more data set into it, which is the new X. So the new period, the new 12 months. So the function remains the same. Trend, known y, which we did before, known y. Then we did known x's. Now we need to put new x, which is the 12 month, next 12 months, month 25th, 36th. Then again, same thing, Control Shift Enter. So this is your extrapolation of the existing trend line. This is nothing new. It's the extrapolation. So if you see, this is the same line. We're just extrapolating it. Now, to calculate the forecast, we just take the sum of this extrapolation. So we take a sum of this extrapolation that we have just, calculated on Excel. And this gives you the forecast. So this is the forecast. This is just saying that if we follow this trend line, which we have identified, this is the amount of packs which will be needed for the next 12 months. So this is what logically we are saying. Does that make sense now?
Yeah, Sanji, but how do you do the summation?
There is a lot of background noise coming from your side. If you can ask the question again.
Okay, I said the number you added, why and what does it justify?
This number and this number. You said the number you added, what does it justify? So I'm just asking, is this number that you're talking about 1120? Are you talking about something else? Sorry, can you explain again? What exactly are you looking for? Are you looking for this number?
Hi, Sanjay.
Yes.
So I think if I got our question well, he is asking how you got the sum.
Okay, so if that is the case, if this is what you're asking, then like I said earlier, once we extrapolated the trend, the existing trend, to calculate the forecast for the next 12 months, we added the numbers which are there in each of the cells. So what 98 means in this cell, that the trend line is showing us that for the 25th month, this facility or this district will need 98 packs. Then for 26 months, 97 packs. 27th, 96, and respectively for 36th month, they will need 89 packs. So in total, for the entire 12 months, if we take the sum, we will get the forecast 1120. So that is the number of packs that they will need for an entire year. Okay. We already have allocated about 30 minutes for this exercise. If there are any other confusion or questions, please reach out to me on chat. I know there are some people who had, and I will explain again. But I guess for now, we should be going back to the session which we have for today. And then any additional questions that you may have, please note them down for yourself. And then you can ask me on WhatsApp directly. Okay. So for today's session, like I had said in the chat, it is focusing on procurement strategy, or we can say strategic procurement, how to kind of design strategic procurement. So I have been reading a lot of responses from you, in the discussion group, and a lot of you have been talking about how procurement happens in your respective organizations. Some people said it's competitive bidding. Some said, okay, we look at both national and international suppliers, and lots of other things. However, there is a confusion between practice and strategy. Okay, so when we talk about strategic procurement, it is more about that organization or a system collectively deciding on some strategic choices of how you want to organize your procurement system. Okay, and in this session, we will talk about some of those strategic options, some of those best practices, and then we will end up with a group discussion where we will be asking you to design a strategy for a fictional country, so that you understand what kind of issues goes into designing a procurement strategy. Okay, so let's begin this session. So the first, what is strategic procurement? Okay, it's a very simple question. So it means that uh, that procurement should not be viewed as an ad hoc activity. It should not be viewed as something like if, like, let's say we go to a supermarket or a small convenience store in our neighborhood, and we get some supplies for our house, you know. So that's just simply whatever we need on a one particular day, we go and buy it. So procurement in health supply chain for medical products, for health products, should not be done in that way. That okay, today we list out all the medicines we need. Okay, this is the quantity. This is more or less the budget we have. We go to a supplier or a wholesaler or a distributor and we get that products. You know, so that is a wrong approach. Strategic procurement, on the other side, is a comprehensive and a long-term process. It's not ad hoc, it's not an impulsive decision, but a rather very well thought out and a long-term process which strives to procure the required product of the appropriate quality. That is again the metrics. Let's understand the metrics. Appropriate quality and cost in a timely manner. So three key metrics. Okay, or rather four, let's say, because then it's to satisfy the demand. So one, we need to procure the products in the desired quantities, in the desired quality, in the right cost based on the budget we have, and then in a timely manner as well. Because if procurement is late, then everything after that gets delayed as well. Okay. A procurement strategy aligns the procurement operations with the organization's or a system's goals while minimizing the risks and increasing efficiency. Okay, so the reason why we need a strategy, long-term strategy for procurement in health supply chains, so that the risks are minimal and there is higher efficiency overall. Okay, like I said, the process of creating or drafting any strategy or to institute any strategic procurement involves an entire organization. Now, in this case, it should involve multiple stakeholders, not just, so let's say if a state in Nigeria does procurement of health products in that particular state, to organize a procurement strategy for that state, they should bring all the different stakeholders together, like the DMA, representatives from the State Ministry of Health, LMCUs, representatives from the local government authorities, maybe someone from the Federal Ministry of Health, maybe some donors or implementing partners, representatives from there, and then talk about this so that they get the inputs from all different sides, which can be considered while creating a strategic procurement plan. The information that is required to create a procurement strategy or to institute a strategic procurement system, it should be taken from suppliers. So suppliers can give you information like what kind of products they have, what kind of prices that they're selling those products on. You need information of market trends. Market trends can be multiple. Market trends can mean like what kind of new products there can be on the market in the future. If let's say some products are being phased out by some suppliers. If let's say a generic version of a innovative product is coming to a market that will reduce its cost. So those are something we call market trends. Then you need information of pricing as well, of course. From suppliers, you also get information as to how much like volume of products that they can deliver at one go, or a minimum quantity of products that they really need to process any order. Okay. You also need to understand how and when you can make those transactions with respect to your budget cycles or any other factors, like market research, where you can identify future suppliers or contract conditions where you can establish pricing structures, like long-term pricing structures. So a lot of information is required even before you can start discussing a strategic procurement system. There are 5 key things that you need to look at. There may be more, but these are the most important 5 key issues that you need to look at or achieve, let's say, when you are looking at a strategic procurement system. Your objective should be to increase efficiency and reduce procurement time. Uh, Procurement time is very important. We also call it procurement lead time in some cases. So procurement lead time means when the procurement team gets the quantities of products that is needed for them to procure, and up to the time when those products reach a central warehouse or wherever they are being consolidated. So that is what we call a procurement lead time, because that includes all the processes that the procurement team has to do, all the processes that the manufacturer has to do until those products are shipped from the manufacturers and reach wherever the first point of contact with the buyer. Okay. Strategic procurement also makes procurement a streamlined activity rather than an ad hoc activity. Like I mentioned earlier, it reduces risk and it improves quality of product over a period of time. It may not happen in the first instance, but over a period of time, you will see better quality of products. It should also aim to improve fairness and transparency of process. So all suppliers must be given equal opportunities to bid. The pricing should not be arbitrary. There should not be any supplier who are given unnecessary favors. Everyone, should be, there should be a standard criteria of evaluation, so to say. And eventually, the most important objective for any strategic procurement is to deliver value for money. And I believe more or less all of you should be aware about what is value for money. Okay. So that is, in a sense, what is strategic procurement, okay, or a strategic procurement plan, or some people may call it a procurement strategy. Different ways of saying the same thing. Okay. So moving on, so what's the difference between ad hoc and strategic? If we have to list them out, so here it is on your screen. I won't read everything, but ad hoc procurement simply means you just, like I said, you go to a supermarket and you buy something. So one day you need something and you go and buy it. So that's ad hoc. You can also call it emergency procurement in some cases. But strategic procurement is a more systematic and planned approach. Okay. Ad hoc procurement typically occurs when there's an immediate need. Like I said, it may also be called an emergency or an urgent procurement. We generally call them emergency purchases rather than procurement. Procurement is a more long-term activity which also includes market research, supplier negotiation, contracts management. So all that is part of procurement. Okay. Strategic procurement rather involves developing a comprehensive strategy. Like I said, analysis, supplier evaluation, negotiation, all that is part of strategic procurement. Ad hoc procurement tends to focus on short-term relationships. So it's literally, I mean, we need something, we get it from someone, there's no real relationship. Rather, on the other side, strategic procurement, it emphasizes building strategic relationships with the suppliers. They may be based multiple places. They may be your local distributors, local wholesalers, to international manufacturers from where the products are originating at the beginning. Ad hoc procurement offers flexibility when there is an immediate need and you can find something very quickly. So that is the flexibility ad hoc procurement offers, no doubt about it. Okay, but that would mean you're paying extra to get something at an urgent basis, which also means that somewhere down the line, someone failed to identify that need much before. That's why there's an urgent need. Okay. I mean, yes, there can be a very real reason of sometimes going for an urgent or emergency procurement. Like, there is an epidemic, for example, and suddenly a demand for a certain product has really shot up. Okay. So that's where emergency procurement is good. But it is not good if it is being done every other month. Okay, so then it is not good. So that's the basic difference between ad hoc procurement and strategic procurement. Now, how do
Hi,
we?
Sanjay.
Yes, Zakaria.
Sorry, yes, sorry. Please, going back to the previous slide you just presented. If you look at point 3 on the side of Adhoc procurement, and then point 4 on the side of strategic procurement, they are the same.
Yeah, I think it's a mistake.
They're saying, yeah.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
it's a mistake. So we'll fix that and
Okay.
we'll send you the
So we'll
good
take
one.
off that one on the side
Yeah.
of strategic procurement, right?
Yes. So this.
All right. Thank you.
Sorry, 1 second. Let me move my screen again. So this has to be removed. Okay. So ideally, what should come here is that strategic procurement offers you a long-term vision of what is required, more or less this. But I will ask the team to find out the actual text which was supposed to be here, and then it will be shared again. Okay, so apologies for that. Now, how do you set up a strategic procurement system? Okay, so what are the key steps? It's not simple, it takes time. And like I said, it has to be done in a multi-stakeholder approach. Just like in the previous session, we were saying how a quantification system has to be managed. So similarly, a procurement strategy, if one has to devise, it has to be a multi-stakeholder approach. It starts with analysis, that where are we now? What are our needs? Okay. That's where you collect a lot of information. Like I said, external environment, your supplier market, how your supply chain is, how frequently you should buy, what can be some major risks of procuring in a long-term approach versus a short-term approach. Those kind of things you should know, you'd analyze at the beginning, and then your choices must be discussed. So in procurement, there are multiple types of choices that there are. So just like we discussed in the previous slide, shall we go for a very systematic strategic procurement option, or shall we keep on doing ad hoc procurement every 3 months, based on whatever needs we have at that point in time? Similarly, there are different strategies where we need to look at. Please, if you don't have any questions, I would request you to not unmute yourself, because there are sometimes background noise. So different alternatives have to be evaluated, and we will discuss in this session some strategic choices as well. And then once those choices have been decided, then those choices have to be planned out. So those choices also have to align with what do you need, okay, which is your step 1 also. And then you finally decide how to get there. So that is where your overall procurement plan is built. Okay, so let's take a bit of a deeper look into this. So first step is analyzing. Lots of things to analyze: purpose, competency, external influences, different stakeholders, operating environment like your budget, your borrowing capacity, different donors who can give you money, ability to procure within the country or outside the country, foreign reserves, then analysis of the market. What suppliers are available, who can supply you, what kind of contracts or award system that you should be working on, what kind of supplier preferential system that you may want to include. Like, for example, in a lot of countries, for certain products, they give a preferential treatment to local suppliers, and it might be true for Nigeria as well. I'm sorry, I don't know. But for example, in Ethiopia, when I was working there, they had a price preferential treatment for local suppliers. So let's say if a local supplier bid for a product at a price of, let's say, 200 naira, while a foreign supplier, bid for the same product at a price of 180 naira, depending on how much of price preference is given to the local supplier may still win with a higher price. Okay, so this is generally done to promote local production and local manufacturing of products. Then, how do you make procurement sustainable? And I would also like to add here in this step, how to continuously evaluate the performance of your system as well, to identify some metrics. Then, of course, risk management. What are certain risks that you need to analyze at the very beginning of devising a procurement strategy? So all this comes under analysis. This is what you're analyzing. This is your step one. Okay. So analysis step one, which is here. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 things more or less come under analyzing. Then we come to choosing your strategic options, and then finally your strategy and plan. Okay, so in strategy and plan, you see procurement methods like local procurement, international procurement, competitive bidding, whether it is an open competitive bidding or a closed competitive bidding, whether it is a one-step procurement or a two-step procurement. So all these are different methods. Bidding procedures, how you want the suppliers to bid, how much time you are giving them, will it be advertised openly, whether it will be closed, open of tenders. So those are also your choices. Then different contracting strategy, whether you're going for longer term framework contracts or you're going for simple 6 months, 1 year direct contracts, that's also your choice. Like I said, preferential pricing for local suppliers, trade terms. What kind of Incoterms, international commercial terms you want your suppliers to adhere to? If you want freight forwarder to work with you, or you want the manufacturer or the supplier to ensure that products are delivered to a certain point from where, if it is a state in Nigeria, from where you take control of products, how do you want to approach quality of products? What is your strategy on that? And then how do you want to approach your donors, funders? So these are different options that you need to understand, choose, and then put up in a piece of paper and get agreement from everyone who is involved in procurement. Okay. So this is the first part of this session. So this is how you need to look at strategic procurement. We discussed what is strategic procurement, why we need this, why it is better than ad hoc procurement, and how to set up strategic procurement. So if you have any questions up to this point, you can ask them directly. You can also put them in chat. The next section.
Hi, Sanjay.
Yeah, Gatanya.
Yes, just a little question. I want to ask, is there any time that an organization can, apply both processes? I mean, both ad hoc and strategic procurement. Is it possible that way?
Yes. Yes, indeed. It is definitely possible. So let me give you an example, which is coming to my mind very quickly. So I was supporting Indian Railways. So okay, let me give a bit of context as such. So in India, the Indian Railways, they also have their own hospitals. So multiple hospitals throughout the country. And then they also have a medical board for the railway system, which looks at all these hospitals and helps them in procuring products for the hospitals as well. So they have like a two-layer system, let's say. So centrally, the central board, it does procurement for all the hospitals combined. So all the hospitals, they send them their data and demand and everything. And the central board does the overall procurement. And then the suppliers, they send the product directly to the hospital. So there is no central warehouse. Depending on each hospital's need, the suppliers send the product directly to that particular, because different suppliers in India are able to send products directly to the hospital, and they don't do international procurement. So it's all locally sourced. So they can do that. However, every hospital is given a pool of funds. So let's say if the overall procurement fund is $100, so the central board uses $80 to do a strategic procurement, where they pool everything together, buy in bulk, get better prices, get better lead time. They also get better relationship with suppliers, while they still allocate $20 to each hospital so that they can do emergency procurement for any specific need. And for emergency procurement, they had listed down, rules. Then what are the rules where you can apply this fund, which is in an emergency procurement fund, to go for emergency procurement, which you can either buy directly from your local wholesaler. They also had a list of wholesalers from where they could buy, and by state, by the way. They are very professional in that. So it's one of the systems which I have supported with, who are very, very professional. And actually, one of the things that I did for them for one of a region was to actually go and research different wholesalers and enter into some kind of a negotiation of, if emergency procurement is needed, how quickly can they respond? Can they respond within a day, within a week, within a month? So what for different products, so they had a list of products. So my work, not just me, there was another consultant. So we reviewed which products historically needed emergency procurement, because if you look at data, you generally get an idea that, okay, maybe these are the 30 products which more often than not they go for emergency procurement, because the demand is also always very erratic, for example. So then those hospitals always had an emergency fund. So just like you asked, strategic procurement can also include a term on ad hoc procurement and rules for going towards ad hoc procurement. So the idea and the reason why strategic procurement and rules for strategic procurement has to be laid down and agreed with everyone, so that if you have also given some allocation of ad hoc procurement, it is not being, it is not being misused by some people. And you know how when we look at our supply chain, the highest amount of corruption lies in the procurement structure, because that's where the major chunk of the money lies. So if we look at any case study involving corruption and misappropriation, and like funneling of money, that always happens in the procurement area, more or less. And there are multiple case studies across the globe, published by different organizations, donors, implementing partners, but majority of them are always within the procurement department. Okay, so that's why you need a procurement strategy signed by everyone, followed by, so that you can enforce it properly. So that if someday someone sees something like this happening, then they also have a written document to stop it as well. Okay, so that was a good question. Any other question if anyone has? I think otherwise we go to the next section, where we look at some best practices, some options, and which will be taken by Dr. Okafor. Dr. Okafor, if you are there, the next section is over to you. I will still be here for any questions, any clarifications, but over to you, Dr. Okafor.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone.
Ma.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma.
How's your
Good
weekend?
afternoon, ma.
Good afternoon. How's your weekend going?
Very fine, ma.
Fine, ma. Fine, ma.
Thank you very much. So Sanjay has spoken about strategic procurement. He has explained the concepts. He has also spoken about the steps and how to do it. So I want to talk about the best practices in strategic procurement. So one of the best practices is conducting market research to identify potential suppliers and understand market trends. So in this case, there's need to conduct research, at least you know the availability of the suppliers, you know the volumes of what they are manufacturing, or importing, that's their capacity. Then you also research about the price of their products. So these are what we guide you in making your strategic procurement and your budget. Then we also identify the core competencies and strategic partnership needs, developing clear procurement policies and procedures. So the company has to develop their standardized policies. They have to define whether their core competence is logistics or procurement, or if they want to outsource their procurement to other people. Then the author has to establish long-term relationships with suppliers and third parties to ensure reliability and continuity of supplies. So in this case, there can be contracts that's like rate contracts, that the contract that they can say, okay, this has to be the price for a long time, provided you're buying a particular minimum quantity of their products. And then they also have to confirm that procurement decisions are based on long-term value for money rather than just cost. So you need to talk about the long-term value for their money and not just the cost of the product at that particular time. Another best practice is to monitoring supplier performance and building relationships to jointly implement corrective actions when necessary. So they have to be monitoring the performance of their suppliers together, and also to evaluate what they are doing. And it is when they get all these feedbacks that they can use, and also to correct the actions and the feedback that they're getting from their suppliers. And it may also be possible to develop indicators when they're having strategic procurement. They have to do things like what the quantity of products supplied, are they supplied on time? Are they supplied in full capacity? You know, what is the shelf life at the time that they are supplied? So they need to monitor their supply performance and also evaluate at the end of the procurement process. And item 6, leveraging technology in a systemic approach to streamline procurement processes and improve data management. So this is a technology era. So every procurement process, especially the strategic procurement, has a leverage of technology in order to manage their data very well. And they also collaborate with other stakeholders, such as donors and partners, to share procurement resources and expertise. So collaboration is very important. It's one of the best practices in strategic procurement, so that both the donors, the partners, and the implementers, they can share their procurement resources, share their expertise, put their risk together, and share their risk also. Next slide. So this is I think this is the slide after this is the case study of Rwanda. You know, this is the item 6 of one of the best practices. If you look at the item 6 that we just discussed, yes, you look at this item 6 we just discussed in one of the best practices. There are 7 best practices, and item 6 is exactly what Rwanda has done. So I want to use Rwanda as a case study because they leverage technology and stakeholder collaboration in Rwanda. Rwanda has improved its public procurement over the past 2 decades, but it still had issues with inefficiencies, corruption, and lack of transparency. And these are some of the things that we see in developing countries, not just only in Rwanda. So in 2012, the government launched an ambitious project to digitize the entire public procurement process, starting from planning to payment. But even in the strategic procurement and the collaboration that they have done with their technology, they still had some challenges. And we are going to look at the challenges and compare them with what we also have in Nigeria. And we look at their success factors, because as they had these challenges, they also were able to surmount the challenges, and they had some successes. So as we are looking at this slide, we need to also reflect on, apart from what we are seeing here as challenges, what other challenges, assuming this is what is being implemented in Nigeria, or assuming Nigeria wants to implement these particular item 6, to leverage technology and collaborate and do stakeholder collaboration. Apart from these 4 items, we have listed as challenges and the 5 success factors. You need to reflect on what other challenges do you think we can have in Nigeria and what success factors can we build. So implementing an electronic public procurement was not an easy task at all, especially in a country with limited technological infrastructure and history of corruption. So the project faced several challenges, including resistance from some stakeholders who were comfortable with the old payer-based system. You know that many people don't want to change, especially when they're gaining from the status quo. So whenever change comes, people try to resist it. So that was one of the challenges that they had in Rwanda. And they also had some technical challenges because they had inadequate internet connectivity and power supply in some areas of Rwanda. And among the experts that they have, some of them don't have enough capacity to implement the new system effectively. And also ensuring security and confidentiality of procurement data. So you can see that even when they have that technology, that they were not able to secure the data that they had. And they also had the confidentiality issues. But despite all these challenges, Rwanda's electronic public procurement has been a resounding success. Those that know Rwanda very well, we know that they've succeeded in so many things and they've gone beyond many African countries despite the war and despite all the challenges that they had politically. They have come back, they bounced back, and they want to take over Africa as a whole. So even with the challenges, their procurement process is one of the best in Africa. And what are the success factors? Because they have strong political will and leadership from the government. So the leadership did not just make policy without implementation. They made the policy and they backed it up politically. And they had the strong will, they had the political commitment to ensure that that policy worked out. The partnership with the private sector to provide technical support and training. As we talked about 3 challenges, that they didn't have enough human resource capacity to drive that technology. So they partnered with the private sector so that the private sector that had the technical know-how, we are able to support them technically and also train them. And that's the same thing, training and capacity building of procuring experts to use the new system effectively. So as they were using that new system, they were also being trained on the job. So the experts from the private sector were training the public sector to ensure that they understand the technology very well. There was also public education and awareness campaigns to promote transparency and accountability towards suppliers. So they're not only on their own teaching themselves and building their capacity, they were also training to ensure that policy of transparency and accountability towards suppliers. So those that want to supply, those vendors, they also know that they need to be accountable, they need to be transparent, and the public has been taught to observe that. There was also continuous monitoring and evaluation of the system to identify and address challenges. So Rwanda's pioneer electronic public procurement is a testament to what can be achieved with strong political will, partnership, and innovative solutions. So I want to pause at this time to ask us, assuming Nigeria wants to implement this technology in strategic procurement, and apart from these 4 challenges, what do we think can be extra challenges that we can have in Nigeria? Or do you think we have these 4? Or do you think we have these 4 plus other ones? And what will you think will be the success factors? Because we end up one day implementing this technology and stakeholder collaboration. So if you want to contribute, you can raise your hand and unmute yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Okafo.
Thank you, Dr. Okay.
Yeah, so we have these 4 challenges as well. And then a major one is the lack of the political will. the government needs to show a strong political will to ensure success of a public procurement system that's adequate. So we need to add that lack of strong political will to the challenges. And then for the success factors, we can leverage on everything that Rwanda has done, and it will help to improve our public procurement system. Largely, partnership with the private sector is a major one that would help us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nike. Thank you very much. Any other person, please?
Yes, let me just make a comment.
Okay, Dr. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Well, I will speak from my experience. I think I have an experience trying to support, about 2 years ago, support the state government in Ondo State, my state, to come up with a functional DMA, which we eventually passed. I proposed the law, and eventually we got the law passed. And of course, the governor was very interested to get us run whatever support that would have wanted. But unfortunately, because I was not a member, I was not in the public sector, eventually the public sector people hijacked it. And I was checked out. You understand? So it shows that we have bureaucracy. We have, even in when you talk about governor, I mean, a politician not having a strong political will. We also, you understand, we also have the issues of bureaucracy, the bureaucracy, challenges, bureaucracy challenges. Are the civil servant interested? Are they ready to allow? You understand? I mean, even with their knowledge, even with some of them that doesn't even have knowledge on specific areas of what we're dreaming and we're bringing up. Of course, because they feel that they are in charge, they are people right inside the system. They took it over, and of course, as I speak today now, of course, they're making progress. But to my mind, I'm sure they are not making the kind of progress I would have expected after 2 years of passing such law. Bill into law. So it's not only about the political being really ready or willing to give political way. We must also be talking to the bureaucracy, the civil servant, because even the corruptions of Nigeria stinks more in the bureaucracy rather than the political class. So I think it's a big challenge that we should also be emphasizing in our client.
Okay, thank you very much for that case study. I'm also thinking that at this time that they're having the public-private sector engagement with the DMA, with the African Resource Center is championing between the DMAs in different states and the pharmaceutical manufacturing group and the importers, wholesalers, and distributors. I'm thinking that this is the time for people like you to join that public-private partnership that ARC is driving for many states. And I think Ondo State is part of it. Because even when they don't want private people to come in, now private people are coming in from that African Resource Center-driven PPP, which is working for the companies because the companies are now being paid their money. The government is no more owing them through the DMA. So I think that that time that they started, that PPP was not, I don't think it was in existence at that time. But I want to advise that private sector can go back through the African Resource Center to join that PPP so that they can participate. Because it is through that act that the quality assurance is being assured, is being ensured in that process. Thank you very much, Dr. Adekola, for your efforts. And thank God.
Hello,
Hello.
I just want to make an input. I don't know if I can go ahead.
Yes, go ahead, please.
I think another thing to be considered is the issue of vision and mission as a nation. And what I mean is consistency and transparency in maintenance culture. Now, a government could be in power for 4 to 8 years, as the case may be. And then another that will come thereafter may choose not to go in line with the digital means of procurement. So I believe the issue of being consistent and transparent in our maintenance culture, particularly of doing things, could also be a challenge. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm sorry for interjecting. If you allowed me, I want to answer the question you just raised on the issue of sustainability. Every DMA that is established today is backed up by law. So if it is backed up by law, a law promulgated by the State House of Assembly and signed to law, it will be difficult for any government coming in to change that law, because that law stays there. It's a law of the state. So saying that maybe a new government will come and not be interested in it, it's a difficult, except it's not working, because there is already a legal framework which is backing that. It's not just a policy that somebody just brought up, but a law that is well spec'd out. So I think that question should be answered by the issue of the legal framework. Thank you.
You know that you can have legal framework and have policy, and then the problem becomes in implementation, because the issue of transparency is an operational issue. So there may be law and policies. Like in Lagos State, there's a strategy for the whole Lagos State, not only health. And that is why every governor that comes in Lagos State continues from where the other one stops, because they have a strategic plan that they want to do in Lagos. But some people may, during the operations, follow the guidelines for implementation. And that might be what Babatunde is talking about.
Exactly, ma. That's where I'm going. But I just wanted Dr. Adekola to actually land. Now we have the land. Nigeria has laws, but in some issues, in some strategic issues, in security, name it as the case may be, the implementation is always an issue. And that's where the aspect of continuity in maintenance culture comes in. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So we can continue. Thank you very much. Sanjay, next slide. So best practices in procurement continues. So why e-procurement is being used increasingly now? E-procurement systems streamline procurement processes, making them more transparent and trackable. Just like we spoke about now, transparency. And when you have e-procurement, it makes everything more transparent. It streamlines the process, both from planning, making tenders and quotations, procurement, M&E. When it's being done electronically, it's very easy to be transparent and to track it. E-procurement reduces operational costs by eliminating paper-based processes. It's not only paper-based processes, it also reduces human resource operational costs. So when you have e-procurement, you have less human resource working on the system and the cost is reduced. It also increases competition by advertising a digital tender beyond borders and improves supplier performance. So when there's e-procurement, you can see that there are so many people, it's beyond border. So many people can put their tender, many people can advertise on the digital platform. There'll be more competition and it will improve performance of the suppliers, because they are seeing that everybody's on that platform, People are saying what and what they can do. And the people that want to procure are looking at what you have put on the platform. They're looking at your prices. They're looking at your shelf life of your products. They're looking at the brand. They're looking at so many things. And there's competition and the suppliers are performing better because the advert is beyond borders. And e-procurement also improves data accuracy and transparency for real-time analysis and informed decision-making, because everybody is putting the data there. The data is more accurate, it's more transparent, and you can use it on real-time analysis. You can even see feedback from different stakeholders. And when you are able to access those feedbacks, it will help you in taking decisions concerning the procurement process. Next slide. So, strategic procurement, leasing large medical equipment. So we're going to talk about leasing and full procurement under strategic procurement. So the healthcare sector heavily relies on sophisticated and specialized medical equipment to deliver quality care to patients. However, purchasing medical equipment can be capital intensive, and not all health facilities may have sufficient financial resources. So leasing in health supply chain is the practice of leasing medical equipment, devices for healthcare facilities and providers instead of purchasing them. So leasing is not outsourcing. Outsourcing is you have given the person, you have brought in somebody in your process to run a particular process and own it. But in leasing, it's like renting a facility or renting some services. So you are paying them for a particular period, and you may decide to buy over the product or the services at the end of the leasing period, or you can decide to quit the leasing agreement. So operationally, health programs that pays, supply chain organization that tenders, and health facilities that uses lease medical equipment from a leasing company and pay periodic rentals for its use. You have explained that earlier. Next slide. So what are the benefits and challenges of leasing? The benefit is that access to latest equipment and facilities. So the health facility may not have the money to buy that latest equipment, but with this process of leasing, they can access and use such equipment and facilities. So it allows healthcare providers to access the latest medical equipment and facilities without making a significant upfront investment. What they will only be paying is the rental for the leasing. Then cash flow and capital conservation. Leasing reduces upfront costs, provide predictable payments, and avoid the risk and cost of ownership. So you can also offer tax benefits and help with asset management. So the company that you have leased the equipment can also manage the assets for you. You are not having the liability of owning it and managing or servicing it. So it's the leasing company that does all that. Then that's what we said, reduce maintenance and repair costs. So reduces maintenance and repair costs, as leasing companies often provide these services. They also provide contractual flexibility and also technological advancement. It enables healthcare providers to stay up to date with latest technological advancement in medical equipment, and they don't need to pay a bulk money for doing that. Asset lifecycle management. It helps healthcare providers to manage their asset lifecycle and reduce the risk associated with owning and disposing of medical equipment. So in that concept of leasing, it is the company that owns the equipment that is responsible for the ownership, disposing the equipment, maintaining it, and all the other liabilities that the health facility is not ready to do, and that they can also sign off from the lease at the end of the lease period, or they can buy the services or the equipment that has been leased. Next slide. Then what are the challenges of leasing? The first one is equipment compatibility. You know, the equipment that are already existing in the facility may not be compatible with the new one. that is being leased. So sometimes it can pose a challenge, you know, and all this can cause delays because there has to be a time, there has to be some time mapped out for the issue of compatibility to be addressed. And there can also be regulatory compliance. Maybe a particular machine has been inspected and certified. So when you have another machine in that company, there will be issue of going to call the regulator to come and either in the first instance, they have to validate or calibrate whichever the one that you need. And you now call the regulator to come and also certify the particular equipment because you have changed equipment. So you have to do some other change control and regulatory compliance. Then maintenance and repairs. Managing maintenance and repair for multiple leased medical equipment across different locations, ensuring minimal downtime can be challenging. Because when you add some more equipment to the one you have, and sometimes they can be at different locations. So there's a challenge of maintaining and repairing them. And also the financial consideration, because negotiating favorable leasing terms, including pricing, payment schedules, and lease duration, requires careful evaluation and financial planning and can be challenging. So someone might, there might be agreement that, okay, for this lease equipment, this is the amount that you're paying every month or every year. But there will be challenges of maybe, like, you know, like when COVID came, assuming somebody had leased a very large equipment in January 2020, and COVID came, and nobody's asking you whether you're using the equipment or not. You have to be paying the money on monthly basis. So there can be challenges of, you know, such things, planning, payment schedules that may not work out because of unforeseen contingencies. Then data security and privacy. The integration of leased equipment with healthcare information systems increases the risk of data breaches or unauthorized access because you have now brought in another party into your facility. So you have to be sure that data is secured and there's privacy. So these are some of the challenges that will come in when you bring in people into your own system. Because when you do leasing, it's like some people are now going to come into your system to do one or two things with your data, and it may erode your privacy and your security. So it's not like you're outsourcing, and if it's outsourcing, the person does not have anything to do with your own facility, neither do you have with their own. But in leasing medical equipment is not always like that. There's always some issues to do with partnership. Next slide. So the second one is pooled procurement. You know, for pooled procurement to work, it means that the stakeholders has to agree to come together. If pooled procurement has to work, because people say that there's more to it than just being colleagues or just being friends. So when you want to do pooled procurement, there has to be some like terms and conditions of the pooled procurement issues. You know, there has to be a strategy in place, and there has to be some guidelines in place. So the first of all, the stakeholders has to agree that they want to work together before you can do pooled procurement in health system. So procuring goods and services is becoming increasingly challenging for organizations due to rising costs and the need for greater efficiency. Pooled procurement is one strategy used by organizations to address these challenges, which is a collaborative process that involves a group of buyers coming together to purchase in bulk products and services to bargain ever more with a larger quantity. Pooled procurement allows organizations to merge their financial and other resources, thereby enhancing their effectiveness and generating increased purchasing leverage. I want to distract you a little with what happened yesterday in the market when I went to buy vegetables. I noticed that the mama that brought the vegetables, she came in with a truckload of vegetables, and I was wondering how she was going to finish selling them. But because everything was fresh from the farm, I just rushed to her and said, "Mama, please, can you give me some vegetables?" And before I could finish talking to her, 2-3 other women gathered, and I noticed that there were like 5 bunches of vegetables there. So what they have done was pooled procurement. That mama has gone to the farm and bought for all of them. They have given her money, So all of them didn't have to go. You know, there's cost for human resource involvement. So all of them didn't need to go to that farm to go and buy the vegetables. They stayed back. She went, she took money from them, she bought. And you know, as she bought plenty like that, I'm sure it was cheaper. Transport was cheaper. The people, everything about that was cheaper. So when I was buying I remember this lecture today that this is also procurement in that, in the market among petty traders. So food procurement is very important because it reduces costs. And for this one in the health supply chain, there are a lot of guidelines that follow it. Even for quality assurance, it is easier for a corporation like this to ensure quality than for one person to ensure that quality when there's no food procurement. Next slide, please. So when you're having food procurement, there are so many benefits. Like, as we said before, cost saving. By purchasing products or services in bulk, the overall cost per unit is reduced, resulting in cost saving for all participating organizations. There's also increased bargaining power, because when you bargain for a truckload of goods, it's not the way you bargain for just like a small quantity or a carton. There's also efficient use of resources, because the resources are put together. And the fact that when you are doing procurement, that all the logistic costs, even the human resource cost, is reduced. There's also improved quality, because when purchasing goods or services in large quantities, it's easier to establish a quality control measure and ensure that the products or services meet the required standard. Like, I also want to give examples with our DMA and the PMG man. PMG man is Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Group of Pharmaceutical Group of Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, PMG man. In Nigeria, we have Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. They will now have the PMG man, which is the pharmaceutical group, like the Facing, the Man Baker, the Emzos, SKG, all those people that manufacture. You know, they came into a PPP with the DMAs in many states. And when they came into with the DMAs, then the DMAs later started having food procurement with these companies. And this food procurement is being driven by African Resource Center. So in that food procurement, African Resource Center has a consultant that is a quality assurance consultant on that platform. And what that person does is to ensure that there is appropriate forecasting that is at least is like almost 100% accurate. The person ensures that the quotations are brought on time. The person ensures that when the order is given, that the companies supply, and that they supply on time, and that if there's any reason for coaching is maintained, and that they are supplied at a particular time and places where they need it. So if it's only one company that is purchasing products, that company may not be able to have a quality assurance consultant to follow the whole line of the process. But when there's a food procurement, the system has that quality assurance consultant that ensures that the procurement is done with the desired quality. Also reduce risk, because in the food procurement, just like in insurance, people pull risk together. And when there's a problem for one person, the money for the whole that have been pulled is used to attend to the risk of one particular person. So the food procurement can help reduce the risk of supply chain disruptions, and the participating organization can collaborate to identify potential risks also. Then it promotes collaboration. Food procurement promotes collaboration among organizations, which can lead to increased knowledge sharing and best practice adoption. So as they collaborate, and also learn new things. In that collaboration, they will share knowledge, they will learn new things. People will learn from the mistakes of others and also learn from the successes of the stakeholders in that procurement platform. Next slide. So what can be some challenges of food procurement? We are
So
talking
this is
about
just a quick dialogue. Sorry, over to you. Yeah, so sorry, I was just saying that this is a quick dialogue. We can ask participants to talk about from their experience rather than
Yeah.
we giving them some possible answers already.
Exactly. So what can be some challenges of food procurement? We have spoken about all the benefits of food procurement. So I would like us to identify this because it's not only PMG man or it's not only DMAs that do this food procurement. Even among the community pharmacists in Nigeria, there's food procurement. People also gather in different community pharmacy zones to procure. They go to companies, they procure, and they procure cheaper than even what they in different spheres of even in industrial pharmacies, they also procure. Some of them even do food procurement while doing importation. So it has a lot of benefits. So what do you think will be the challenges of food procurement in Nigeria? It's an open discussion. You can raise your hand and unmute yourself and talk. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Stephen, Pharmacist Stephen Onujomete. I think one of the challenges of food procurement is sometimes over purchasing, especially when forecasting trend changes. Because by its very nature in food procurement, you are buying large quantities. And I've seen in some cases where some sister organizations who buy at such level suddenly ran into trouble when the forecasted trend or prescribing pattern, suddenly changed, especially like we had during that COVID-19. And you have an institution that products of close to between 20 to 30 million, one product, will expire on them or they will be stuck with it. So I think one of the challenges, because like you explained, to do, apart from the quality control, the forecasting for food procurement has to be 100% correct. And that is only on paper in theory. In real life, life happens and it can never be 100% correct, especially when the trend suddenly change on you, or there can be a pandemic, there can be a political change or swing, and all of a sudden you are stuck with large stock of products that are ahead already purchased by the organization. So I think that is one of the challenge that I see.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. And somebody has written on the chat box, lack of trust between the people involved. Yes, it's the part of it. Then somebody also wrote, failure to adhere to the terms of the pool procurement agreement by the participating parties. Thank you very much. I think someone wants to talk.
It's not so suitable for ad hoc procurement.
Okay, yes, that's correct.
Okay, so there's a quick question that I would like to ask here, because pool procurement may seem very difficult for many people, but can anyone tell me in the health sector globally, what are or who are the two biggest organizations? And I believe all of us or most of us know these two organizations who participate at a global level on pool procurement. Can anyone tell me who those two or maybe more organizations at a very global level they do pool procurement? And I believe all of us more or less know them.
Global Fund.
Yes, absolutely. One is Global Fund.
Yeah.
Yeah. Second,
Usage.
Usage.
no, not really. I mean, yeah, I mean, GHSC, PSM may do it, but a lot of it, they also do at a country level. But they are not one of the largest, I would say. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Unfortunately, is right, Gavi. So for vaccines.
Yeah,
If
Gavi.
these organizations like Gavi or Global Fund can do it at a global level in multi-billion-dollar deals, I believe country like Nigeria with different states and DMAs can really come together and organize a pool procurement system despite various challenges. And more so where in a country like Nigeria, eventually, it's the same country. So yes, there may be some challenges related to, like Dinda James mentioned, failure to adherence, lack of trust, or someone, Onyarikan mentioned lack of trust, or, like you said, just a while ago, where requirements may change or data collection may be a problem. But pool procurement, it is proven globally that it can work, so it's just a matter of organizing it and getting it done. Dr. Adekola, you have a comment, I believe.
Yeah. I just came to my mind that yes, it's a very good strategic procurement strategy for procurement. But again, also looking at challenges, I also feel that in a climate like ours, poor procurement sometimes may also have a disadvantage of not, I mean, trying to reduce involvement of others. For example, if 10 states, for example, pull together to procure ciprofloxacin from fixing, for example, the cipro that we're fixing. Whereas in Nigeria, we know there are, I mean, we have some other manufacturers who also produce very quality ciprofloxacin. So if everybody comes together and choose to now procure fixing ciprofloxacin, for example, what it means is the other manufacturer will be shortchanged because they have no, I mean, their market. So it takes market shares. It narrows, I mean, procurement will narrow market shares to suppliers, to given suppliers. So you don't have many players.
Dr. Adekola, I believe I understand what you're saying. But here is what I was trying to say initially, that it is a matter of how it is organized. So pool procurement doesn't mean that you need to forget all other principles of procurement, which is fair competition, analysis of the market, and going with the supplier which can give you the best quality and the best price. So the regular principles of procurement remain same in a pool procurement system as well. So it doesn't mean that if organizations come together and participate in a pool procurement, they only go and buy something from only one organization or one supplier. It doesn't mean like that. It means that the rules of procurement stay same. It's just that now more organizations and more institutions are coming together in enforcing those standardized rules and purchasing everything at once rather than doing it individually. So there are clear challenges as well where organizations may feel lack of power for themselves. If in a group of organizations, there is an organization which is much bigger than the rest, then the smaller ones may feel a bit of, lack of power for themselves. There is definitely an issue of lack of trust or not being able to adhere to the guidelines which are agreed. But if we do a cost benefit kind of analysis for pool procurement, we will see that the benefits will outweigh the challenges. And there is always a way to institute such a system when we see that it is working at a global level as well. Although I'm not proposing that it always has to be done, but this is always, like I said, it's a strategic choice for organizations who are involved in procurement rather than something like an imposition. Yeah. And absolutely, yes, Zakaria, organizations should have shared interest. Yeah. Dr. Adikola, you want to say something?
You know, I'm agree with you.
Okay. Excellent.
Thank you.
Dr. Okafor, any further points on this, or shall we move ahead? Because I'm seeing we are also a bit short of time, although I don't know how we will do the assignment now, but it's totally up to the participants. So if there are any final remarks from you, and then we move to the assignment very quickly.
Yes, let's move to the assignment quickly because I've spent
Okay.
more time than we allocated.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. So, since we spent about half an hour initially to discuss the week 2 assignment, we are about half an hour behind now in finishing this week's assignment. And I'm sorry, it is my dog who is producing some strange noises because she also wants to be part of this session. So here it is. So it is not me who's making these noises, just so you know. Let me get rid of her. Okay, so if all of you are still available for another 30 minutes, we can try to finish this so that you can go back and work on this assignment by yourself as well. But the objective here is that we want to divide you into 2 groups. Each group should have a team leader. There is a file which was shared by Priyanka to everyone, and let me share it once again on Zoom as well, so that it's there. And then let me go back and share my screen again. So I've shared the template of the assignment which needs to be fulfilled. So the objective is that we will divide you into 2 groups. Each group should have a group leader, just like we had done the previous time. The group leader will project their screen, discuss the issues, and together you write the responses. Then we come back into plenary and we present, ask questions, and then those slides, which each group, 2 slides, 2 decks, which each of the respective groups have worked on, will be shared across with everyone so that you can make your own adjustments and then upload as part of the week 3 assignment. Is that okay? Is everyone okay with that? If anyone has any issue, please raise that concern.
Sanja, can you come again? I didn't get you, please.
Okay. So the objective here is that there is a case that we will present. We will divide all of you into 2 groups. Each group will have a team leader, a group leader, who will use the template which I have just put in the chat and was also emailed by Priyanka. They will use that template to write down the responses of each of the questions which are there in this group case study. Then we will come back in plenary. Each group leader will present what they have discussed and written in the template, and there can be some question and answers. Then those respective slides which have been created by each of the groups will be shared with everyone. Okay, so each group will get their template, and then you can make your own adjustment into that slide before submitting it on the platform as part of week 3 assignment. So each one of you have to submit your week 3 assignment independently, but based on what you discussed today. Is that okay? Is that understood now? Anyone has any problem? Then I will go through the case quickly, and then we will put you into 2 groups.
So Sanjay, if I get you well, you are saying that the assignment is a group one, but every individual has to submit it.
Yes.
Right?
So
all right.
The PowerPoints that you will prepare today will be shared with the respective group so that you can then if you want to make any adjustments, and then put your name into that assignment and submit it on the platform. Exactly what you said. Okay, so can we quickly have two people raise their hands who can be group leaders, and then I will discuss the case, and then we'll divide you into two groups. So very quickly, please, two group leaders. I mean, it will be great to have two different people this time, but I believe the two last group leaders are also here today. So maybe you can resume your group leader duties. But if two new people will be really great. Please, very quickly. No one wants to be group leader. I mean, that's a shame. So maybe Zakaria, I know you are here today. And let me see if Ogbuche is here. Ogbuche is also here. So would you like to resume your group leader duty today again, if it is okay with you? Zakaria and
That's fine, Sanjay.
okay, Zakaria, okay, excellent. So both of you have said okay. Okay, so let's quickly. Sorry, Dr. Adekola, you said something.
I was thinking I can also use woman this time.
You want to be a group leader?
I say woman.
Oh,
Gender.
okay. Okay. I don't know if someone raises their hand. I mean, it's rude for me to appoint someone, but if someone raises their hand, then definitely why not? So if
And then cocaine day. There.
So yeah, if someone is accepting that role, then I'm okay with it. But otherwise, it's Zakaria and Ogbuche again. So let me quickly discuss the case, and then we can again come back to who's the group leader. So the case is a fictional case. So where we wanted to think about strategic procurement. Okay, so let me quickly read it. So the name of the country is Fictivia. It can be any name. It has 5 regions. Okay, the country has local pharmaceutical capacity. So it mostly imports its requirement from outside the country. Okay, it's a landlocked country, so there is no seaport in the country. So the nearest seaport is in a neighboring country. So generally, whatever imports come into the country, it takes 6 months. Okay, so 6 months to the nearest seaport, which is in the neighboring country, and then 3 more months from that seaport to the Fictivia central warehouse. So in total, 9 months it takes for any import to come into the country. Okay. Now, this country has recently gone through a decentralization agreement. So if you are aware of, probably Nigeria also went through a decentralization agreement maybe lots of years ago. Kenya went through it in 2016 or 17. And there are lots of other countries who have gone through similar decentralization structures. So now the region, each region, they generally used to have a regional health directorate, regional logistics unit, which used to be, functioning independently, or which now functions independently. Okay, so each directorate and regional logistics unit, they purchase independently, they warehouse independently, and they transport product independently to their respective hospitals and health centers. Okay, now there is no central supply chain actor in the country, except there is a National Ministry of Health, which only collects and collates annual consumption data reported by each of the 5 regions for analysis and decision. Okay, this is the only reason for this is because the Central Ministry of Health, it also funds some of the programs and products. So that's why it asks for data. Okay, now in the next sentence, commodities products are funded jointly. So the regional governments, because it is decentralized, they pay partly for it, and the central government also pays partly for some products, and there are some donors as well. So it's a mix. So that's why the Ministry of Health collects and collates data from each of the regions every year. However, very recently, the financial the financial controller of the country, they conducted the audit of all the 5 regions on procurement processes. And what they found was this in the bullet points on the screen. So there is a large difference in procurement prices for the same products between the regions, from very simple differences to going into triple. So if someone is paying X, the other region is paying 3X. The length of procurement cycle is different. Okay, so it varies from 6 to 18 months. So very large difference. The frequency of orders is also very variable. Okay, some regions are ordering every quarter, while some regions are ordering every 2 years from the international suppliers. Overall, across all 5 regions, there are many reports of stockouts. Okay. Now, the RLU, the regional logistics unit, who are purchasing directly, they are also not imposing any penalties on suppliers for any late delivery or any poor quality or anything else. So it's just business as usual. If any issues happen, then they happen. There's no consequences to that. Now, when these findings were submitted, the Ministry of Health has now decided to convene a meeting of all the 5 regional logistics units to find solutions to these issues. They went through negotiations for 2 days. And after 2 days, they agreed that there has to be a central logistics unit to manage strategic procurement for the country. So instead of ad hoc independent procurement, they agreed that there will be a centralized procurement and there has to be a strategy around it. Okay. However, the committee could not agree in those 2 days as to how that strategic procurement, strategic sourcing will be conducted. So hence, this is now your role to identify those strategic choices based on the case which you see on the screen. Okay. Now, to facilitate that dialogue on how the strategic sourcing, strategic procurement should be conducted, there are 8 questions. These same 8 questions are also in the template slide by slide. First question is, what should be the relationship between the central logistics unit and regional logistics unit? Should the CLU purchase products for each region separately or together? How frequent should the procurement and supply cycles be? Should there be a central warehouse or should they just remain regional warehouse? And how many months of stock should it hold? Okay, should there be in the country? How will order quantities be determined? Who will pay the suppliers and how? What procurement method should be used by the central logistics unit? And should there be a freight forwarder, or who should deliver the products to the country, and what service should be asked to them, like in terms of Incoterm or where to deliver the products eventually. These are the 8 questions. Okay. So now the objective is that we divide you into 2 groups. To discuss each of these questions. Let's take about 30 minutes. Okay, I know we are delayed, but if anyone really has to leave, please do. But if you can stay, that will be great. Let's take about 30 minutes. Okay, discuss these 8 questions. Okay, and then quickly write down in the template which has been provided, and then come back and take another 5-7 minutes to discuss. Okay, and then this will be the end of the session. Okay, the templates which will be filled will be sent to all of you so that you can make some adjustments and upload on the platform as part of your week 3 assignment. Does that make sense? Is that okay? Shall we divide you into 2 groups? Okay, so let me quickly do that. Okay.
I just want a clarification, sir. Sorry, sir.
Yes,
if there are 5 directorates, why are the directorates not invited for the discussion?
Yes, they have been invited. So all the discussion happened between all the directorates, the regional logistics unit, the Ministry of Health, everyone came together and had the discussion.
Okay.
So that discussion is not important. What is important is that they all agreed that there should be a central logistics unit. So now the question is, how will that central logistics unit work? How will that function? What is the strategy for procurement? That strategy for procurement, there are these 8 questions, 8 key questions. There can be more questions as well. But these are the 8 key questions that you have to answer in a group. Okay. So I'm just opening the groups now. We will do it for about 30 minutes. Okay. And then we will come back. Okay. And I hope the group leaders have the template open. Let me also, yeah. So we are going to the groups now. Thank you. Okay, so I believe everyone is now back. And I saw lots of discussions. I know time was a bit of a constraint today. I mean, generally, we try to do this for about an hour. Unfortunately, we spent a lot of time in the beginning today. But anyone wants to add a comment on? I saw lots of discussion, but did you like this exercise? I mean, did it make your brain turn? I mean, thinking about all those logical issues, and I heard lots of great discussion. So any comment before we invite the group leaders to quickly present? Okay, in that case, sorry, please go on.
I think we should allow them to present before the comment.
Okay, all right. So maybe Zakaria, if you want to begin. Zakaria still there?
Yes, I'm here. Just a moment.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it has taken a lot of time today, but we really want that you go with the best possible, response to the assignment. Okay, Zakaria, very quickly, please don't take too much of time. Please explain what your group has discussed.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Oh, all right. We already have a little understanding about the case, so there's no need going there. We'll just go straight to the response to the queries that we made under query 1, which is sorry, I had to a little bit just adjust for us to be able to see this. So okay.
Zakaria, it's okay. The query 1 was what is the relationship should be between.
Okay, relationship, yeah, under quantification procurement. So the relationship under quantification, our group was able to come up with 2 kinds of relationship. Advisory is the first one, where the 5 regional logistics units are being overseen and monitored by the central logistics unit. And then also advisory role is being offered by the central logistics unit to the regional logistics unit, so as all of the processes that are being carried out in terms of the quantification can be be according to set standards. Then under procurement, the central logistics unit aggregates and sends procurement requests to the suppliers. They also streamline the quantities and price of all products and drug needs from the regional logistics unit, because we found out that if these quantities needed from the regional logistics are being aggregated and streamlined by the central logistics, we tend to have the best price leads. I mean, the best prices, the best quality, and so on and so forth. Just looking back at the advantages of the strategic procurement we talked about. And also the CLU is involved in bidding and tendering processes, as well as agreement signing with the suppliers. They will also have terms of agreement with the suppliers on behalf of the regional logistics unit in terms of the procurement. And then under warehousing, we chose central warehousing to be conducted, but from the central warehouse, drugs that have been procured based on the needs of the different regional logistics units are being sent to that particular warehouse, because we suppose that there are other, regional logistics units. I mean, there are other regional warehouses at the various locations of the RLUs. So under transportation, products are delivered directly to the central warehouse and then to the regional warehouse. And then under reporting, the RLUs are supposed to report to the CLU based on average monthly consumptions and so on and so forth. So they will aggregate their own regional average monthly consumption based on the products they are using and then send to the central logistics unit. And then these reports that are being sent by the RLU should also include the expiry dates of this product, because we would not want to stock, products that are about to expire. And then the second issue, which is whether the purchase products for each region should be done separately or together. We agree that it should be a pool procurement. That is, the central logistics units will aggregate all what is needed by the different RLUs and then, undergo the procurement process. So we also agreed on issue 3 on the frequency of the purchasing and supply. We chose quarterly because that will be what will prevent out of stocks, at the different service points of the regional logistics units. Okay, moving on the fourth issue, we agreed that there should be a central warehouse, and then the months of stock should be 6 months to 1 year. And then the other quantities will be determined according to the consumption pattern that is reported to the regional logistics unit, or maybe you can say the average monthly consumption, because if you do that, you will tend to procure what is needed rather than what you think is needed. So the central logistics unit will also pay, after having received payments from the RLUs. So the suppliers will receive payments from the central logistics unit. Of course, we know that RLUs will have reported to the CLU whatever their, aggregates, funds are, and then this should be paid to the CLU according to the needs. The second to the last issue, which is what procurement method should the central warehouse use. We chose competitive bidding because this will allow for a lot of suppliers to come in and present what they have, and the best out of them according to quality, cost, and so many other factors can be chosen. The freight forwarder should be asked to provide many services, including, when the delivery will be made. Insurance services, because they are coming into country, it might be an international supply, supply from one country, maybe let's say from India to Nigeria, for example. So there are many of these things that are involved. Then communication regarding what is being ordered, and then storage conditions during delivery. This is particularly important for cold chain products. So these are what we're able to come up in group 2. We wait for queries and contributions from either my team members or other members of the class. Thank you.
Thanks, Zakaria. Any question for Zakaria and group 2? Or shall we move to group 1, Oguche? Maybe you get ready to present. I have a few questions, but let us also discuss group 1, and then I will talk about a few issues.
Okay, go ahead,
Okay.
Sanjay.
Yeah, maybe Abuche, you can go ahead and present. Yeah, Zakaria, if you can stop your screen share. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll just give an overview of what we discussed in group 1. Hope my screen is visible.
Yes, yes. Thank
Okay.
you.
So in group 1, we said the CLU should be a central coordinating unit, coordinating the activities of the 5 regional logistics units. And the collaboration between the CLU and the regional logistics unit should involve the following. For quantification, CLU and the regional logistics unit should work together to forecast the entire needs of the country using consumption data from the service delivery point, as well as from other sources like demographic, service data, disease prevalence, and the like. For procurement, CLU should carry out the procurement on the pooled procurement arrangement for the entire country. While for warehousing, a central warehouse which distributes to regional warehouses with one located in each of the regions should be considered. So when the product comes, it gets to the central warehouse, and each of the regions will have a regional warehouse or distribution center from where they can distribute to their service delivery point. That goes to the next point, that's transportation and distribution. So the regional logistics unit to carry out the distribution from the regional warehouses to the service delivery points in their region. For reporting, the regional logistics unit to collect service delivery point data, that's the essential logistic data, data on consumption, losses and adjustments and the like, and share such data with the central logistics unit in a reliable and timely manner. While for payment, the CLU will manage payment to suppliers for centrally procured products. Bearing in mind that the regional logistics unit will pay for the products they received from the central logistics unit. They also collect sales from the service delivery points within their purview. So issue 2, it's asking if the CLU should purchase products for each region separately or together. And so we said the CLU should purchase products for all regions, and this should be done using the pooled procurement for all the regional logistics units. Issue 3 talks about, asks the question of how frequent should the purchasing and supply cycle be. So this consists of 2 things, the tendering process as well as the ordering process. So we are saying that the tender should be carried out every 2 years, while the order cycle should be done 6 monthly to make room for the supplies, because from the overview, we're told that it takes about 9 months for products to get into the country. Then the 4th one, it says, should there be a central warehouse? How many months of consumption should it hold? So yes, we are agreeing that there should be a central warehouse, and that the CMS should hold at least 1 year month of stock. The 5th one says, how will other quantities be determined? We said consumption should be determined, other quantities should be determined using data-driven forecasting methods. Sorry, this is typo. Other quantities should be determined using data-driven forecasting methods, which could include consumption, service data, and the like. Okay. And the 6th one says, who will pay the suppliers and how? So we are saying that CLU will pay the suppliers from the funds that they collect from the regional distribution center. I think we missed this one, but we agreed that a bidding process, because we initially mentioned tender. So a tender bidding process should be carried out. Probably international competitive bidding should be carried out. And then finally, we said, what service should the freight forwarder be asked to provide? Delivery to where? So Incoterms generally talks about the rules that lies with international trades, that assigns roles and responsibilities, as well as costs to the partners, that's the seller and the buyer. So we are saying the freight forwarder should be responsible for transporting the imported products from the neighboring country's seaport to the CLU warehouse. And for the Incoterm delivery at place basically talks about the seller taking responsibility of taking care of the products in terms of shipping, insurance, and the like, until he delivers at a place designated by the buyer, which in this instance is the central warehouse for the central logistics unit. So by and large, this is what we came about for group 1. Thank you.
That's excellent. I think both groups deserve a round of applause because given the limited amount of time, all of you were able to discuss the key points and come up with very logical answers. I believe if we had more time, then it would have been much better. But unfortunately, we spent some time in the beginning as well. Is there any question from group 2 to Ogbuchen group? Otherwise, I can talk about a few key issues. Okay. All right.
You spoke about doing tender for 2 years in your listing. I think doing tender every 2 years, the price economic realities and price variations will make some tenders be useless after a 1 year period. Given that the country is a landlocked country, the way it was described, why not do the tender every year or every 6 months? Why should you do tender for a particular product every 2 years? Then you now start ordering from it, from what you said.
Okay, so my group members can come in to support me, but we agreed on that based on the fact that it takes about 9 months for products to get into the country. So looking at shorter tendering periods will affect the delivery. So we felt if within these 2 years, we get the tender document, and should, in case, maybe because of economic realities, there are systems that can be put in place to allow for variations in contracts, which can be reviewed by the procurement team.
That's a very good question and a very logical answer. But there are a couple of other variations to this that can be discussed. It is not always, Stephen, to you, it is not always like this that prices will change if it is a long-term tender. We call it a framework contract. Okay, so framework contracts can be done in 2 ways. One is a market-based pricing, and second is a fixed pricing. And it depends on product, volume, suppliers, terms, buyers, terms, negotiations, so on and so forth. Okay. So if it is a variable pricing terms framework contract, then every time when the CLU gives a supplier a purchase order, the supplier will give them the price, which is probably in the range of price that they have quoted in the framework agreement. So there always has to be a range. It cannot be that, okay, one day in the contract, you say that it will be $10, but then in the order, you said, no, it is $50. It cannot be like that. There has to be a range. Okay. And it has to be a very logical agreement between the buyer and the seller. That's a variable price term framework contract. There's also a fixed price framework contract where the buyer says that we will purchase products of X volume from you in 2 years, but the price has to be same every time we place the order. And it also happens globally, by the way. So it doesn't matter if the procurement happens the tender happens every 2 years, the prices can be kept same, but that depends on volume. Okay. But the other side of logic, which the group presented, was that it takes 9 months for any product to arrive in the country. So in your case, if you conduct tendering every 6 months, you will probably waste 6 months in just doing the tendering itself. So if you spend 6 months in tendering and then maybe use another 3 months to place your order, it will definitely be delayed. So that was one query for that I had for your group, Stephen and Zakaria, that 6 months might not be a very good idea for tendering. For ordering, it might be, yes, it's okay. But for tendering, because tendering takes a long time. Okay. So if you go back to module 5 and see the different tender steps, if you do a proper tendering, it takes a long time. Okay. So you have to have time in your hands to make your tendering successful. If you do it every 6 months, it might not be like that. Okay. So that was one issue. Any other question from any other team? But otherwise, the one question that I have is that I think Ogbuche's group 1, you said the central warehouse should have 12 months of stock, 1 year, 12 months. Okay. How did you arrive at that number? 12 months of stock. What was the logical basis for that?
Okay, for the 12 months of stock, again, we considered the fact that it takes about 9 months for products to reach the country. And so if we have shorter time frame, the possibility of the country running out of stock will be high. So we made allowance for like 3 months in case of maybe any delays in supplies, or that, to always have like a 1 year stock on ground in country to guard against stock out issues.
There are two things you're saying. Should it be in country or should it be at the central warehouse? You see, there's a difference.
The central warehouse.
Yes. Okay. Because in country would mean that stock, consolidated stock.
No, not in country, central warehouse.
Okay.
The service delivery point and the regional will have shorter month of stock.
Okay. So you mean at any given point in time, the central warehouse should have 1 year of stock at any given point in time.
Yes, that was our thinking.
Okay. So that makes more sense, because to achieve that months of stock, that at any given point in time, the central warehouse should have 1 year of stock, means when initially, when the CLU is established, and you put your order requests and you do your forecasting, probably the first order request that you will be giving probably will be for maybe 2 years, or even maybe probably more than that, because the products will take 9 months to arrive, and then you want 1 year of stock at the central warehouse at any given point in time. So that means that the first order should be of a very high quantity, maybe 2 years or 2.5 years. Okay, so that in that cyclical period, then you are able to ensure 1 year of supply. Mr. Babatunde, you want to say something? You have unmuted yourself. Ola Babatunde, you want to say something?
You just mentioned what I was about to say now. I think it's fine. Okay. It's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. There is one more question that I have, and I think that's to Ogbuche's group only. I mean, of course, it will cover what Zakaria and his group has also done. But Ogbuche, can you show me the last issue, the freight forwarded thing that you mentioned? Can you quickly bring it on screen? There is a question I want to ask over there. Ogbuche, are you still there?
Give me a minute, a moment.
Yeah.
I'm sharing the screen now.
Okay, thank you.
You said the last point?
The last one, yes, the freight forwarder thing, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so first of all, what I want to clarify here is that the reason why a freight forwarder is needed, it may not be clear to everyone. The country is a landlocked country. There is no seaport. Okay, so if the products are coming by air, then it's okay. But majority of products, they come by the sea route itself. Okay, so the sea route, the seaport is in a neighboring country. So someone needs to also first someone needs to bring the product to the seaport. Then someone needs to bring the product from the seaport to Fictivia country, their central warehouse or wherever they want the products. Okay, so that's why a good choice is to have a freight forwarder. Now, which when you presented, you said two different things which kind of contradicted each other. First, you said that the freight forwarder should bring the product, and it's also written, to the products from the neighboring country seaport to CLU warehouse. So, with that sense, who is bringing the product from manufacturer to the seaport? You did not mention, number one. Number two, who are you giving the Incoterm delivery at place? Are you giving this Incoterm to the manufacturer, or are you giving this Incoterm to the freight forwarder? Because the reason being, if you are giving this Incoterm in the manufacturer's contract, then it means it is manufacturer's responsibility to bring the product at the CLU warehouse, which your first statement contradicts. That you want the freight forwarder to bring the product from the nearest seaport to the CLU warehouse. So we have to be very careful on how we determine these transportation terms, because these are first of all a bit confusing, and they
So I
impact
think
your
we'll
price.
rephrase that. The manufacturer will bring it to the neighboring country seaport, while the freight forwarder will handle. Yeah, we'll review that.
Okay.
Thank you
Yes,
for pointing it
you
out.
understand what I'm saying, right?
Yes.
Don't contradict yourself.
For everyone else, for the benefit of everyone. Stephen, you want to say something? Sorry, you unmuted yourself.
No, I think that's fine. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so for everyone's understanding, Incoterm is international commercial terms for trade, and it is specified in all transport contracts or supply contracts where a product has to move from one place to the other. Incoterms specify who bears the cost of the product, who bears the responsibility of the product, risk or responsibility, and finally, if there is an insurance, and who pays for the insurance. Okay, and also Incoterms also specifies that from where the product has to be picked up and to where the product has to go and who's doing that. Okay, so it's very important that at a very basic level, you understand what Incoterms is. Incoterms is covered in the course. There is a very detailed additional video on Incoterms as well, and some documentation for Incoterms as well. Try to look at that as well. There are different Incoterm clauses that people use, organizations use, depending on how best they want or how their system is organized. Okay. So it is very important to understand in this case as well that one, why are you using a freight forwarder? What Incoterms are you using? Who are you giving those Incoterms to? Are you giving it to the manufacturer, or you are giving it to the freight forwarder, or you are giving it to both? So it can be given to both. For manufacturer, it can be delivery at place, seaport. For the freight forwarder, it can be delivery at place, but warehouse. Okay, so it can be two Incoterms given to two different parties. So very important to understand. Any other question? I see a couple of, I see Oluchi also has unmuted herself. Okay, no questions. Okay. All right. I also want you to think about both the groups. You said that there has to be a central warehouse, but you did not specify where that central warehouse will be, or how will you construct a central warehouse, because there was no central warehouse. If you read the case, it says there is no central authority currently. So there is no central warehouse right now. There are only 5 regional warehouses. So how will you construct a central warehouse in limited period, and who will pay for it, and where will it be? So that's also a very pertinent question when it comes to warehousing. Okay, so maybe think about that as well. As a next step, what we are going to do is, I see Ogbuche has shared his PowerPoint on WhatsApp. Maybe Zakaria can also do that. We will share the PowerPoint respectively to both groups. And if someone is missing, they can take any of the PowerPoints, both are okay. And also listen to the recording. But the idea is that now individually, all of you think about this case again. Whatever is written in the PowerPoint, you add to it as well. After going over the discussion that you have just had, and also thinking about from your own perspective, and then submit it on the platform. Okay. I hope that makes sense. I hope this case was interesting for all of you, because I saw some very good discussions happening, people asking very relevant questions and answering them collectively. At the end, I just have one feedback poll for all of you, and I really appreciate all of you for staying back and completing this exercise. It's an important exercise because it not only gives us an insight on how procurement strategies should be built, but it also tells you that it's not just in supply chain, whichever topic that you are discussing, it cannot happen without the involvement of different people with different expertise. Now, here we were discussing procurement, but imagine you need people who have very good understanding of logistics. You need people who have good understanding of product. You need people who have good understanding of contracts, international commerce, trade terms, and you also need people from probably people who are decision makers, who are funders, because eventually whatever you decide will need some sort of money. So these decisions cannot be made in silos. You have to involve people with different skills, different expertise to come together and discuss, and then come at a collective conclusion. Okay. So that was again our effort to show you that supply chain should not be managed in silos. It should be managed as a collective effort between different organizations, individuals, and expertise. If you have not so far responded to the poll, please do so. We really take these seriously. And any feedback that you give us, always we try to implement it. Okay. So with that, I really appreciate everyone for coming to the session today. The recording, the PowerPoints and everything will be shared in due course. Next week, there is no session. We are a bit unavailable next week. But the next session will happen on 12th of August. The timing is also a bit different. So we will, inform all of you. But the next session, there will be a guest speaker from India who's working with Plan International and has been supporting HIV/AIDS program of India funded by the Global Fund. And they have been able to institute a very large scale outsourcing strategy with two or three different outsourcing vendors, which has never been done anywhere in the world. Okay. So it will be great hearing from him how they have been able to do that. More so because Nigeria is very similar to India in terms of how the federal and the state structures are organized. Okay. So thank you very much. Zakaria, you want to say something? You put it on the chat. Okay, excellent. So I think Zakaria has also shared. Excellent. Thank you, Zakaria. Thank you, Buche. We really appreciate your facilitation and guidance. Making sure that we do this well. So thank you so much. And if you have anyone has any comment, any feedback, great. Otherwise, we will stop the session for now because it's been too long. And I also want to, I don't know whether she's here. Okay, I think she's here. Also want to sincerely thank Madam Okafor for yet again